Hey everybody, welcome to Cast 11. I am joined here with Scott Freitag. You are business owner, co-owner of JSO Contracting. You're a realtor with Arizona CRE. You are a proud member of GRYT.
Absolutely.
Which is awesome. We're kind of just interviewing everybody right now, just wondering, I'm hearing lots about this new GRYT initiative. I'm hearing some really good things. I've gone to some of the breakfast. What is GRYT? What is it?
So for those that don't know, I used to be part of Prescott Valley Economic Development Foundation. And in my former role within the community, I was very connected to community development because it's part of what drove the fire district. And when Prescott Valley Economic Development Foundation dissolved, there was a hole in the community, in my opinion, because that was the place where business really came together to try to drive initiatives to help build our community. The challenge with that, in my opinion, was that Prescott Valley economic development was focused solely on Prescott Valley, and there wasn't a regional group, a regional initiative in place to really drive development. Because the reality is, if a business goes in Prescott, homes are going to be built and purchased in Prescott Valley and Chino Valley. And if a business goes in Prescott Valley or Chino Valley, homes are going to be built or sold in Prescott. Goods are going to be purchased. People are going to be involved in schools. So GRYT really brings together that regional approach. And from what I've seen so far, it kind of sets the political side aside to focus on the business community and really a grassroots effort.
And how does GRYT align with your values as a business owner?
Well, I really appreciate the approach and how, especially using Brad Fain as an example, because he's just such a good person. And he's very even-keeled and approachable. And I just think he has a good balance in looking at how we grow the community in a way that's good for everyone involved, right? That's my opinion. And I think he brings that to GRYT, and then those other partners on the board for GRYT bring that same thing to the table. And to me, that's vitally important. GRYT is mission driven, right? There's value statements. There's an idea and a vision for where we head from here that is well articulated. And I think that's important for the organization to succeed. And I think it's important for our community to succeed going forward.
Very well said. What challenges do you see facing businesses or workforce development in Central Arizona right now?
So there's a lot of negativity in the community from people that have moved here and decided that they want to shut the place down. And that is causing a significant challenge because while they're a well-organized group, it's a smaller group. It's a minority of the people within our community. The challenge is the larger majority of the people aren't engaged. One, we don't have the media outlets to really get them the information they need to understand the importance of what we're trying to develop in the community for not just today, but for the future, not just for us, but for our kids, so that they can stay here and thrive as a community. And we really need to get people more engaged at that grassroots level. It's not going to the dais at a community meeting and yelling at each other. It is healthy, substantive dialogue about facts and information and what I term smart growth. And if I could expound on that for just a second, I said smart growth to somebody recently, and they said, well, I disagree. There's not a thing that is smart growth. And I said, well, here's my approach. This is how I see smart growth, is that if you plan a community, like Lakeshore 650 as an example, right? You can control the water situation. You can control the development. You can control how commercial industry comes in and retail, right? And that all works very well. The fact of the matter is the people own property and they can decide to build it within these standards and master plan, or they could go out and do a wildcat neighborhood, which is kind of what I live in.
I live PV North.
I live PV North as well.
and I look out off my patio, and it's just everything everywhere.
Yes. And the reality is when you look at all of that, especially out Cody Springs as an example, everything you're seeing is another straw in the ground into either the aquifer or the old volcanic tubes where the water comes in. Well, when you do that, now you don't have smart planning and growth. You don't have some level of oversight over the water and how it's coming in. You can better control that through planned community development and through planned water development. And so if Lakeshore 650 goes away, it doesn't mean the land doesn't get developed and used.
Right.
It just means that now you can have hundreds, if not thousands, of straws on the ground as opposed to a plan. And so to me, smart planning, smart growth does exist. And it's a partnership between community, elected officials, and businesses.
And I think that I've never, I mean, you always see politics, you always see, the government involved. I've never really understood the fact that businesses can come together, that businesses have a voice, that businesses are able to speak. I just never thought of it before. And so can you just explain, like, what role do businesses need to be playing to shape our future in this region?
So businesses are the backbone of the community. Without businesses, you don't generate the revenue to put in the infrastructure, to build the homes, to have the places for people to go for retail, to have the places for people to go for healthcare, right? You need all of these things in place to have a community and to have a successful and thriving community. And when I say thriving, I don't mean a metropolis like we're building another Scottsdale. I'm just talking about a thriving community that we've come together to plan for the future. And business owners are community leaders, in my opinion. We should be involved. So if we hear of a project that's going before a community council, whether it's a city council or a town council or planning and zoning, and we're busy. I get it. We're tired at the end of the day. So many people just want to go home or we're working late. The reality is we have to be involved. We have to be there to support the other businesses and the growth because it impacts all of us. And so while, it's a challenge to be at all the different things, as much as we can, we need to be engaged, involved, and we need to be speaking to one another. And GRYT is a great place for us to come together, discuss projects, discuss how we support one another moving forward.
I like that. If you were looking into the future, a year or two ahead, what results will you need to see to know that GRYT is doing what it needs to be doing?
Grassroots engagement. I think having a plan, more businesses being involved, having those conversations, not just at the breakfast for GRYT, but in between, whether it's committee meetings or opportunities to sit down for coffee and discuss, hey, here's the opposition to these plans. Here's what's being said. How do we counter that with the facts? Now, I will add to that there has to be some courage along with it because unfortunately, some of the folks who oppose things, if you bring facts forward and you sit down to try to have a conversation, they begin attacking you and your character. And so you have to be willing to stand up and take that and understand that, listen, we just need to continue to have a calm conversation. Don't get mixed up in that. Rise above it. And with all of us coming together, we can have an impact and we can change that direction. And that may also mean that we need some legislative changes. I've talked to Brad and others about this at the state level. The fact that you can have 1,400 people put together a referendum to stop a project when there's 46,000 people or 50,000 people that live here. In my opinion, that's not a great ratio. And when you have money coming in from other states and other people who don't live in those communities, I think there's something that needs to be done legislatively to tighten that up.
Exactly. And it's always the smallest group of people that make the loudest noise.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to counteract that.
Well, and I'll give you an example. You know, my company is taking down the old Prescott City Hall to make way for a new Marriott, and the bicentennial tree is there. And someone made a social media post that said, hey, call all of these people and these contractors because they're going to cut the tree down on Monday. And so someone sent me that and said, hey, just FYI. And I thought, hey, here's an opportunity for me to provide clarification because we're the demo crew, and the tree's not going to be cut down. So I simply went on the post and said, hey, I'd like to provide some clarity. The tree's not in danger of being cut down. Arborist is going to be there Tuesday. Proper barriers are going up. The response from the person who made the post was just a vitriol attack on me and my character. And I'm just thought, you're attacking me in this way for simply providing clarity.
This is what you think is going to happen. This is me telling you it's not going to happen. And now attack.
Right. And so I just responded back as thoughtfully as I could, not to get into an argument, that I was surprised that you would come back in that way when I'm simply trying to provide information. Let me be clear. Here's the facts. And she was trying to attack some of my background. And I said, I'm not going to engage with you any further on my background or this tree.
You have the facts. We're done.
That was it.
Oh, gosh. So why should people, not just business owners, but people in general, pay attention to what's happening in Central Arizona right now?
Well, it's important. We're past the tipping point. So we either thrive or we die on the vine. And we don't want that. We don't want that for our kids. We don't want that for our communities. The reality is the people that are moving here need services. And if they can't provide those services in this area, there's nowhere else to go other than driving all the way down to the valley. And I've talked to people who early in my career here with the fire department, and then since over the 12 years I've been here, hey, we're moving from here down to the valley where we can get better care or we can get these services. These services are vital to the area. And if we don't provide some level of attainable housing and workforce development, then the community is going to suffer along the way. And that's what we have to keep in mind. We have to keep moving forward. We have to keep progressing, and we have to do it together. Business owners, elected officials, other community leaders, we have to all come together and have the conversations. And where I see GRYT is vital is GRYT is where the business community has come together and said, okay, here's the problem. We've identified it. We've identified a potential approach to addressing it as a collective. Now let's move forward together and let's bring more people as we progress.
Exactly. Love that. What advice would you give another business owner that is thinking about joining GRYT?
Stop thinking and join. I think again, when you look at the people coming together at the table, you're either at the table or you're absent. And you can't complain about what's happening or not happening in the community if you're not going to engage and be involved. To that end, I would say, don't just join. Don't just come to the breakfast. Get involved. If there's a committee you're interested in, if you have a project that you want to bring forward and have a conversation about how do we avoid some of the challenges as we develop this, GRYT is the place to do it. GRYT is the place where we can really be active together and see our community succeed.
So with GRYT, there are breakfasts those are open to everybody.
Yep.
And then within that, you can become a member and you have different, you were saying committees, different things. So
Sure.
You can take it a step. So you can come to the breakfast.
Yep.
You can learn, I was there at the last meeting and I was like, oh gosh, is this going to be, this boring thing? They're talking about, bringing, factories here, business. And I was just like, oh, I was riveted.
Yeah.
Amazing speakers, knowledgeable. I mean, I just sat there and thinking, how am I going to stay awake for this? And then couldn't look away.
Right.
So good. And just the people in the room is just, these are the doers, the movers, the shakers in our community. And to be involved with those people and to see them in action, it's really amazing. And I loved how you said, just do it. Just get there. Just get involved.
Well, and that's the thing. You in building that network of people, the the idea that over the years I've built relationships with so many people in my other role that I can still use today. And I can reach out to Brad or Ron or Dane Beck or Jason Giese, just a few of the bigger names out there in development, and have a conversation with them, seek their advice on different topics. How can I help you with this? How can we be involved? And I can tell you that as the fire chief in the 11 years I did that, I got more done through collaborative efforts across the state and within our community than we could have done individually. And now we're seeing that in the business community. And that's what I bring in helping to run JSO Contracting and working with Arizona commercial real estate is, hey, how do we collaborate? How do we approach this thing and make it better? I reached out to another contractor who's been contracting far longer than we have. And I said, hey, looking at this particular project, you have some background I don't have. I have some background you don't have. Would there be an opportunity for us for a joint venture? And he's like, that is amazing. That would be great. You can do that. It's okay to reach out to other businesses and say, hey, would you want to look at this with me? Because together we could get a lot more done. And through GRYT, we can 100% absolutely do that through engagement. And I will tell you, I was at the first meeting and I was so inspired by all the speakers and their words and what they were putting behind GRYT. Unfortunately, I had a back surgery that didn't go quite right, so I missed the second meeting. But when you talk about factories and businesses, the semiconductor industry is huge, and that's going to build down in Phoenix, right? Because it's water and energy intensive. It's not going to build up here. But you have the subsidiary companies that build the widgets that go with the semiconductors that don't use the water, and they don't use as much energy. They would be prime to be up here in our area. But part of that is we have to come together and we have to build the buildings. We have to build the specs so that when somebody says, I'm looking for, we can say, we have that in our inventory.
I think the problem is so many people are afraid because it's like, oh, you're going to build a big business here and you're building a factory and it's going to pollute and it's going to take all of our water and it's going to do this and those are the loud voices that get these things turned away.
And the reality is it's not. We have the areas already set aside to do this. Not everything can go out here in Big Sky Development where Ace Hardware is. Right. The topography just doesn't allow for it. But there are other areas that are prime for this development that will not pollute the area, that will not pollute it, whether it's something in the ground or it's visually. And the master plan that I saw for Amazon, where it was originally going to go, that would not have seriously impacted anybody that lives along, in my opinion, 89A, going towards Mingus.
However, the absence of it has severely impacted.
It has. And I can tell you that there was a referral that came through Arizona Chamber of Commerce looking for 100-acre space to build a 400,000 square foot building. So it didn't have to be a spec. That would have provided over 400 jobs to the community. That spot would have been an ideal location for them, but it's only 20 acres approved, and nobody wants to try to go through that zoning process after what happened last time. We have to change that. We have to flip that script, and the only way we can do that is if we come together. It can't be just a couple people at the council meeting on supporting projects and 20 people against it, because those are the 20 voices that get heard. They're the loudest. They're the most negative. We need more people to come in and talk about this is why this is important to our community.
You've sold me. I want to be involved. To get a membership,
Great.
What do I have to do?
If you go to GRYT.work, you can find out more about GRYT and you can join through that website.
Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and link that too to the podcast so people can see that. And I just want to thank you so much for doing this. I think that, like we said, some of the naysayers are so loud.
Yes.
And there's such a huge percentage of people that want real change and want to work together. this is the place to do that, right?
It absolutely is. And we need to create a movement. We need to create that sense of urgency by providing factual information so that we can get people engaged and involved.
So the way I see it, GRYT is not just another round table of people talking about ideas. You guys are doing it. You're moving.
That is my take on GRYT, is that this is the first time in the 12 years that I've been here looking at the different economic development groups that I really see momentum and people coming together with a vision to really create something that will have a significant impact on our communities, significant positive impact on our communities.
Positive. Well, Scott, thank you so much for coming in. Again, co-owner of JSO Contracting, a realtor, Arizona CRE. You're doing it all, keeping our
Trying to.
getting stuff done. Thanks again for coming in, and we will talk to you again.
Thank you so much for having me.